By mid-1945, the Battle at Okinawa seemed almost unbearable for the tired U.S. Marines in combat. It was down to the wire as the soldiers had stood their ground for nearly 2 months straight in extremely tough conditions. The mud, the rain, blood, and all while facing constant shelling by the Japanese. Marine Private Eugene Sledge, just 20 years old, watched as Japanese soldiers who had nowhere to escape launched relentless kamikaze attacks, screaming and slashing their swords. Sledge also witnessed the brutality of his fellow Marines, who became as ruthless as their enemies in capturing the territory. With each advance, it was as if they were stripping away small portions of their soul. Nevertheless, the fight had to go on. The outcome of the war depended on it. The iconic image of Marines raising the American flag on Mount Suribachi had given the country a significant morale boost, and the military capitalized on it. After capturing 2 islands of Iwo Jima on March 16, 1945, Admiral Raymond Spruance, the commander of the 5th Fleet, set his sights on the Ryukyu Islands, located southwest of the leading Japanese islands. Spruance's mission was daunting. He was to organize a massive amphibious assault force to seize Okinawa, the final barrier between the Allied forces and Japan's mainland. The grueling island-hopping campaigns in the Pacific were nearing their end, and Spruance needed to gather immense naval power. He anticipated fierce Japanese resistance at sea and on land, so he assembled a combined force of over 350,000 naval personnel and 1,600 ships. The operation to capture Okinawa was named Operation Iceberg. Success would mean securing the island's airfields, including the Kadena Air Base, enabling bombing raids over Tokyo and other major Japanese cities. Okinawa was also crucial for Operation Downfall, the planned invasion of Japan's home islands. A specialized ground force, in addition to naval personnel, was essential to taking Okinawa. Thus, the 10th Army was created, featuring the Army's 7th, 27th, 77th, and 96th Divisions, led by Lieutenant General Simon Bolivar Buckner. In total, the 10th Army comprised over 180,000 men and included a tactical air force comprising both Army and Marine units. Lieutenant General Mitsuru Ushijima's 32nd Army, with 100,000 troops, faced off against the American ground forces. However, the once mighty Imperial Army was now just a shadow of its former self, much like the Navy. Aware that the war was essentially lost, Japanese soldiers had much lower morale. Among them, only 67,000 were professional soldiers, about 9,000 were sailors from the Imperial Navy, and the remaining 40,000 were militia known as Boitai. These militia members were locals from the Ryukyu Islands, with minimal training and weaponry, fighting mainly to protect their loved ones and small communities. The Imperial Army had even coerced over 1,800 boys, aged 14 to 18, into combat roles. Propaganda had convinced the population that the Americans were ruthless, targeting older men, women, children, and babies. This fear drove thousands of civilians to fight, with no other choice but to confront the enemy. Ushijima and his officers knew the war was nearly lost, but aimed to make the Americans pay dearly for every inch of land. Their new strategy was based on attrition, intending to inflict maximum damage to exhaust enemy resources. Adopting deep defense tactics used at Peleliu and Iwo Jima, Ushijima's men avoided fighting on the beaches. Instead, they retreated into an extensive network of tunnels and caves, shielding themselves from naval artillery and bombs, and only engaged the enemy up close with counterattacks. The Imperial Navy had another deadly tactic, the widespread use of kamikaze pilots. On March 23, 1945, Task Force 58 reached Okinawa and began bombarding the island to weaken Japanese defenses for the upcoming landings. This task force, consisting of destroyers, carriers, and other Navy ships, was joined by the British Task Force 57 to attack enemy positions. From March 24th to 31st, Allied naval artillery and American aircraft bombarded Okinawa. U.S. forces secured Case Shima, a small group of islets 6 miles from Okinawa, with minimal Japanese air resistance. Still, the day before L-Day, a Marine officer warned his troops that this could be the most costly amphibious war campaign and to expect 80 to 85% casualties on the beach. On Easter morning, the men boarded their LVTs and headed towards the shores of Okinawa. To their surprise, they met little resistance. The 1st and 6th Marine Divisions and the 7th, 27th, and 96th Army Divisions quickly landed and secured the southwest coast. By day's end, over 75,000 troops had established a beachhead and secured areas, which was expected to take 3 days. Renowned journalist and war correspondent Ernie Pyle noted that the predicted carnage was wonderfully and beautifully absent. The Marines thought the Japanese had abandoned the island's defense, but they were mistaken. On April 6, the Japanese Army and Navy launched a decisive surprise attack. As the U.S. Army and Marines pushed deeper into Okinawa, chaos erupted. Japanese pillboxes erupted with precise machine gun fire, while hidden mortar and artillery positions wreaked havoc on advancing American troops. The soldiers quickly switched to a defensive stance, allowing Sherman tanks and flamethrower units to flush out the concealed Japanese forces. Meanwhile, air support faced challenges as the Imperial Navy launched a massive aerial assault. Over 400 Japanese fighters from Kyushu swarmed the skies, heading straight for the American fleet. Instead of traditional bombing runs, Japanese kamikaze pilots took a more drastic approach. They dove directly at the Navy's warships. Between April 6th and early June, the Japanese launched 10 large-scale attacks known as kakusus, aiming to cripple American and British ships. These relentless assaults damaged over 158 Allied ships and sank more than 20, at the cost of over 1,000 enemy fighters, taken down by anti-aircraft fire and dogfights. Vice Admiral C.R. Brown described the terror of sailors witnessing these kamikaze attacks, saying there was a hypnotic fascination with the sight that was so alien to their Western philosophy. They watched each plunging kamikaze with the detached horror of someone witnessing a terrible spectacle rather than as the intended victim. They forgot themselves momentarily as they groped hopelessly for the thought of the man up there. Then the Imperial Navy launched Operation Tengo, a surprise offensive involving 10 warships, including the mighty battleship Yamato, the largest and most powerful ever built. As Admiral Seiichi Ito's strike force neared Okinawa, Navy submarines spotted them, leading to a brief but pivotal clash between fighters. 300 Navy fighters and torpedo bombers descended on the Tengo force, disabling the Yamato in less than 3 hours. By the end of the battle, the Yamato and 4 Japanese destroyers were sunk, along with Admiral Ito and 3,600 Japanese sailors. A little over a month into the battle, ground combat in Okinawa had become a nightmare for infantry and armored units. Torrential rains rarely ceased, leaving soldiers drenched and stuck in muddy foxholes. Marine Eugene Sledge from the 5th Marine Regiment witnessed the toll on his comrades, many of whom were consumed by dread at the thought of returning to the brutal fighting. This despair only fueled the Americans' hatred for the Japanese. The Japanese soldiers were deeply entrenched. Only flamethrowers could force them out. Close quarters combat was relentless, and those who weren't hit by grenades and gunfire were consumed by flames. As Marines and Army soldiers advanced further into Okinawa, they faced stiff resistance. On April 21st, the Army captured Lashima. On that day, Ernie Pyle was riding in a jeep with an Army officer when a hidden machine gun nest ambushed them. Pyle's death significantly affected the Army's morale, but the troops pressed on. Shortly after, the soldiers reached the Maeda Escarpment, a treacherous location later known as Hacksaw Ridge. Here, a young medic named Desmond Doss, labeled a coward for refusing to carry a weapon, showcased extraordinary bravery by saving countless lives. With enemy artillery creating craters around them, Doss tirelessly attended to the wounded, ignoring the relentless shelling. One by one, he carried his fellow soldiers to safety. His heroism earned him the Medal of Honor for his unwavering dedication to saving lives. By May, the majority of Okinawa was under American control despite multiple Japanese counterattacks. The failed Japanese offensives forced Ushijima's troops to retreat behind the Shuri Line, an 8-mile defensive position stretching from the island's east to west coast. Intense firefights erupted near the intricate ridges surrounding the historic Shuri Castle, where Japanese artillery targeted Marines attacking from lower ground. Supported by artillery from the USS Mississippi, the Marines eventually scaled the rubble and planted the American flag on Shuri Castle. On June 18th, General Simon Bolivar Buckner was killed by Japanese artillery fire while overseeing his troops, making him the highest-ranking U.S. officer to die in combat during the war. 2 days later, facing inevitable defeat, General Ushijima took his own life rather than surrendering to the Americans. In the following days, scattered Japanese resistance on the island gradually diminished. Although the cost of victory was immense, Okinawa was finally secured by June 30th. This was a critical point in the war, as an airbase on Okinawa put US B-29 bombers within range of the Japanese home islands. This paved the way for aerial attacks, including using atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Thank you for watching this video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and remember to hit the bell icon to be notified of our latest videos. Please like and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating historical content.